Welcome back to Author. Thank you for joining me. For this video I'm going to try something new. We'll be taking a look at some covers that authors have submitted and I'll be offering my opinions. Please feel welcome to comment below your opinions on the covers, I'd love to hear from you. As a disclaimer, each author featured has given permission for me to critique their work. And as a final note, this is just for fun, I'm not claiming to be correct. These are just my thoughts and opinions. Sorry for the long intro, let's take a look at our first cover. The first book we're going to take a look at is Thomas Colgrave's Rise of the Wolf. Overall, I think it's a really good cover. I think with a couple of tweaks it can take it to the next level. So if this were my cover, what I would probably do is increase the size of the woman just slightly. When this cover is at thumbnail scale, like when browsing Amazon, it'd be really difficult to see that in between the wolf's legs is a woman. It's always worth thinking about how this book is going to be perceived when people are scrolling through Amazon. And another thing that my eye can't get away from is that the wolf just needs to be blended a little better with the clouds. The leg blending on the left side is excellent. It's exactly what the rest of the body needs. Now, I don't claim to be an expert in typography, but what I would probably do with this book is reduce the size of the author name and increase the size of the title and subtitle. And this is just my opinion, but if it were my design, I would probably move the whole imagery down, move the author name to the bottom, and then the title and subtitle up to the top. But I do tend to like titles as the first thing that the eye sees at the top of a book. I think author names at the top do work and can work, but typically we see that when the author is well known. So having the author name at the top being the first thing that the eye sees might not necessarily be the right choice for self-publishing. Overall, as I said at the beginning, I do think this is a good cover. It wouldn't immediately put me off looking further into the book. I think it's communicating the genre and the story effectively. I like the font choice, I particularly like the choice of gold, I like the subtitle, and overall I like the imagery. What do you guys think? Do you agree with what I've said? Let me know in the comments below. The next book I'd like to look at together is Evac by Eddy Beck. Evac is a science fiction novel with humorous elements. I think the book does a successful job of communicating science fiction. The imagery with its purples, reds and blues is always a win. I do appreciate that the title sits inside of that shape. That's a good choice. But my critique on the typography would be that the author name is just too big. The eye is immediately drawn to the author name, which again, like I said with the previous book, is fine if the author is really well known. But for self-publishing, it may be a consideration to just tone that down slightly and let the title do the work. Making book covers is really challenging and there's a lot of boxes that you want to try and tick. Now, this book does communicate its genre, but I am missing the humorous elements that are clear in the blurb. I also think with the font choice for the title, there's a kind of erosion element to it that for me doesn't really hint at the true story. The book is about an alien object that appears in Neptune's orbit, where a bunch of misfits try to discover where it came from and what it wants. If I were to just look at the cover and not read the blurb, I would probably expect to see some hard sci-fi, serious type book. I'm not necessarily sure what the answer is here for the imagery, but I do think it's worth considering alternative designs that may convey the humorous elements of the story better. And maybe it's worth looking at other art in the genre and what it does right, like Spaceballs and Mars Attacks. Of course, we can't all afford the book cover of our dreams just yet. I think with a few tweaks to the font, it will elevate this book dramatically. But overall, it definitely catches the attention. So well done. The final book that I'd like to give my thoughts on is Stargazers by Gregory Swan. Stargazers is a contemporary fantasy and sci-fi, and I think the cover is mostly doing a good job of communicating those genre elements. Some improvements that I might consider if I were the author would be to remove the burning circle. It's conflicting quite heavily with the other elements in the centre of the page. If removed, I would probably enhance the burning elements around the edge of the book. In terms of typography, there's a few things that I might consider doing if this were my work. I would move the author name down, increase the size, and increase the letter spacing, whilst also possibly putting it in all caps. I think as it stands, the author name is on the small side, and when viewing at thumbnail size, it's quite hard to read. With the title font and all the elements behind it, it's also currently a little hard to read. That may improve if you were to remove the fiery circle, but again, in terms of typography, some of the letters are closer together than others. For example, the A and the R sit close together, whilst the R and the G are quite far apart. That's going to be it for this video for now. I hope you like this new format. Let me know in the comments. And thank you again to the authors for submitting your work and allowing me to critique your covers. I hope you too also like the comments that I've made. If you've not already done so, please consider liking and subscribing to help this channel grow. And if you can support me further, there's a link in the description to buymeacoffee.com with ways to support me there too. Thanks again everyone, see you on the next one.